Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to my movie channel. My name is Tom and thank you very much for joining us for this special spoilers review for Solo, A Star Wars Story. Now, did I just say us? I think I just said us. That's because in this video, I'm joined by Cameron Peterson, who is a fellow YouTuber. He also does movie reviews as well, and we got to talking a couple of days ago, and we thought it'd be cool to do a collaboration and review Solo, A Star Wars Story together and talk about spoilers together. So at the end of this video, please go and subscribe to him. I will leave a link to his channel in the description below. And he's also going to start us off for this review with his thoughts on Solo, A Star Wars Story. So I'm going to let Cameron start it off and we'll get into this review.
All right, so the first thing I just kind of wanted to dive right into first was the first Chewie and Han scene. Okay, I loved how they were introduced. I loved the way that they introduced these characters so much. It made me very, very happy. Just the fact that Han was speaking Wookiee was so funny to me. And I know people are like, oh, that's cheesy. I thought that it was hilarious. I thought not just hilarious, but I thought that it was like, it made sense. Like, it's not like, what? It was like, that made sense. And he didn't know that he spoke Wookiee. Otherwise, he didn't know that he spoke English. Otherwise, he would probably just spoken in English. But I loved how sleazy and sly Han Solo was able to be just throughout the entire film, but especially in that scene in particular. He's always able to get himself out of particular situations.
Yeah, I have to agree for the most part about the Han and Chewie relationship. It is by far the standout relationship of the entire movie. And I said in my non-spoilers review on my channel, if you haven't seen it, that's up on my channel, you know, as far as Lando goes, I thought Donald Glover did a sensational job. And, you know, before the movie came out, I was like, I really hope Alden Ehrenreich doesn't just do an impression of Harrison Ford. He has to capture the essence of the character of Han Solo, and he has to act like the character, but I didn't necessarily want him to act like Harrison Ford acting like the character, if you know what I'm trying to say. Donald Glover, on the other hand, really did act like both Billy D and Lando at the same time. And it did feel like he was doing a Billy D impression, but it never bothered me because it was just so good and it just felt like a young Billy D. Williams. I didn't feel like, oh, that's Donald Glover trying to do an impression. It was just young Billy D as far as I was concerned. And yeah, I have seen some people complain about Han speaking Wookiee. You know what? I don't know why that bothers some people. I actually think that was really cool. And to be honest, you know, if Han is this intergalactic smuggler and he's been around the galaxy, he says in A New Hope, you know, I've flown from one side of the galaxy to the other, I've seen a lot of strange stuff. He says that, so why wouldn't he pick up some of the native languages of whatever planet he's on? Of course he would have picked up some Wookiee here and there. I actually thought that was a really nice touch, and it was a really funny moment too.
Yeah, and also I just really enjoyed the character development between all of these characters, especially Han Solo and Emilia Clarke's character. I really enjoyed their chemistry. Thought that was really fun. And then Emilia's Clarke character was so mysterious. We even leave this movie just like I'm really not sure like what to think of her. Now, one thing that I really loved is she didn't die. So whenever you go into this movie, I honestly, like, especially like the first scene, as soon as he kissed her right there at the beginning, I was like, okay, she's gonna die by the end of this film because she has to. But she didn't. She crossed him and then left. And I love how they kind of left this to where you could just leave the story where it is, but they also left it to where it could be set up for a sequel. And I think that there will be a sequel. I think that and I hope that there is. But I especially want to see some more of her, and I want to see some more of Darth Maul, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a second. Oh my gosh, the name Han Solo. Did he not, like, why did that have to happen? Like, why did they make that a thing? Why didn't they just have his name already be Han Solo? Why was there... I mean, okay, I'll say it like this. I don't think, and I think I told this to you a little while ago, Tom, while we were planning the collaboration and stuff, but I don't think that it took away from the movie at all. I don't think it took away from the story. I don't think it took away from the movie. But what I think it did is it took away from the character. You think, well, I don't know if it took away from the character, but it affected the character.
That was the number one thing. I had a list going into Solo, as I said in my non-spoilers review. I had a list of things I didn't want to see. Top of that list, next to probably 3PO and R2, was, God, I hope, don't mess with Han Solo's name. Just let that be his name. Don't mess with that. And yeah, I hate it. I hate it. And the first time I saw it, it soured my enjoyment of the movie a little bit because I was so annoyed that they did that. It felt really cheap. There was no point to doing that. And you know what it felt like to me? It felt like in episode 3 when Anakin's turned to the dark side and he's kneeling before Palpatine, and Palpatine, you know, says, henceforth you shall be known as Darth Vader. And it just felt like he was making it up on the spot. And that's what this felt like, but it was worse. And I was like, why couldn't that just be his name? I just wanted to touch on a few of the other things that I really like about the film. Dryden Voss, Paul Bettany, you know, people say he was a throwaway villain, he didn't really do anything. And yeah, you can make that argument. I won't argue that against you, but I really enjoyed his character. I really like Paul Bettany. I really enjoyed Dryden Voss. I thought he was scary. I thought he was intimidating. And when he says that line, he says, you know who I answer to, and he won't be very happy when he finds out we don't have the Quaxium. And I was like, okay. As soon as that happened the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, it has to be someone we know. And I was thinking he's going to answer to Jabba the Hutt. Maybe it's Darth Vader, because we had heard rumors like months ago that Vader was going to be in the movie. And then it was Darth Maul. And I gotta tell you, you know, Maul is one of my favorite. He's probably my second favorite Star Wars character of all time, next to Kylo Ren, because Kylo Ren very quickly became my favorite character of all time. But I really love the character of Darth Maul. And I was caught up. I'd seen Clone Wars. I'd seen Rebels. The reason it surprised me so much that Maul actually pops up at the end of the film, and I know Cameron and I have slightly different opinions on this. You know, we both think it was cool, but I actually think the reason I think it was so important and such a surprise was it wasn't something I thought Lucasfilm would do in the movies. You know, they had said, like, everything's canon, the TV show, the movies, they all are the same, they all count the same, they're all equal in terms of canon. And I was like, okay, but not really, because the shows referenced the movies more than the movies referenced the shows. And in Rogue One, yeah, you had the Ghost in there, and you had them call Captain Syndulla, and you had Chopper, but they were little tiny things that, if you hadn't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, it was just another ship to you. It was just another droid. It was just another random Star Wars name being called over the intercom. You know, it didn't really affect it. And it didn't really it wasn't really any really major connections from the movie side of things to the shows. And so when Kira, I keep going to call her Rachel for some reason. I'm not sure why. Every time I'm going to talk about Kira, I keep wanting to call her Rachel, and I'm not sure why. I don't know where that comes from, but that's just me. But when she puts the ring in there and the hologram pops up, and I was like, I saw the metal leg, and I saw the hood, and I heard the voice, and I knew immediately it was Sam Witwer. And I was like, oh, it's Maul. But a part of me still didn't believe that it was Maul, just because I didn't think it was something they would do. And if you had told me a week before I saw the movie that Maul was going to be in it, I would have been confused, and I probably would have been angry, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why the hell would Maul show up in a Han Solo movie? That doesn't make any sense at all. And funny story, actually, the day before I saw Solo, I was watching a YouTube live movie show, and I was, you know, in the live chat, and someone was dropping spoilers for Solo, but I didn't know there were spoilers. I hadn't seen the movie yet. And someone kept saying, Maul is in Solo, Maul is in Solo, Maul is in Solo. And I was like, they're dropping fake spoilers, you know, because with Infinity War, I saw a bunch of people dropping fake spoilers about the movie, and I thought, oh, this guy's just trolling, he's just saying stupid shit, doesn't matter. And there was no way I would have believed anybody about Maul being in Solo. Turns out Maul's in Solo. And I really love it. From a point of, like, you know, Lucasfilm really took a risk in the sense of, if you hadn't seen Clone Wars or Rebels, and if you'd just seen the movies, as far as you're concerned, Maul died with Obi-Wan cutting him on half on Naboo. And this is the first time you're finding out that he actually survived that. But if you have seen the Clone Wars and you have seen Rebels, him being in Solo means a lot more to you, I guess. And maybe they're relying on, say, you know, people who hadn't seen Clone Wars or Rebels and didn't know about Maul. They're relying on, well, maybe they'll probably go with someone who had seen them, and they'll get it explained at some point. But my big question about the mole thing is, where do they go from here? You know, now that they've re-established him in the movies to the general movie-going audience, not just the die-hard Star Wars fans who watch and consume every bit of content that comes out, where do you go with him now? Do you say put him in a movie with Kira? Do you put him in the Obi-Wan movie? Does Kira show up in that movie because him and Kira are now tied? But this also, you know, if you've seen the Clone Wars, you know, Darth Maul was part of the crime syndicate and he was building, you know, these crime groups, I guess, or these mobs, you know, he was creating this syndicate. But by the time we get to Solo, he's finished with that. So he's trying to build something else here with Crimson Dawn, and I'm not sure what their plan is. I'm not even sure if they have a plan. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't have a plan at all and they just put him there to put him there, which I'm fine with again because I love Darth Maul. And the cameo didn't feel forced at all. It was a really nice little cameo. And I really like the fact that they brought Sam Witwer back to do it. And they also brought Ray Park back to be the body, the physical body of Darth Maul, and Sam did the voiceover for it. So that was really cool. And I got a big kick out of seeing Darth Maul on the screen.
I didn't think Maul was that big of a deal, and I still don't. When she turned the key and the lights went black, and then the hologram showed up and he showed his robot leg. As soon as I saw, before I even saw his face, before I even saw his hood, I saw the robot leg and I was like, oh look, it's Maul. And I was like, sweet, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that we have Maul. But then I see some other reviews and they're like, this is the big spoiler of the movie. And it's like, well, it's not really. I mean, what is it spoiling? Like, it's all stuff that we already knew. Like, Maul has come back in Clone Wars and in Rebels, and he's had the robot legs. I mean, that's how I immediately knew who he was. So I feel like for people who haven't followed this, like it's like a oh that's cool, like oh mind blowing. But I don't know, for people who are already like huge Star Wars fans and maybe will probably get the most kick out of that, I didn't really. I don't know. I didn't really feel like that was a huge. I'm glad that Sam came back to voice it. That was pretty cool. But I'm really glad that we have the Maul character back in the big screen. Like, that makes me really excited. But I don't know. I don't really care as much as I think some other people did because it's not any new information for me. I think that this is all old news. But I'm super excited that other people were happy about it. It's so cool. But I didn't care as much, I don't think.
I wanted to touch on Tobias Beckett for a minute because I've now seen the movie twice. And the first time I saw it, I liked Beckett's character. The second time I saw it, I liked Beckett's character a lot more. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just the fact that it's Woody Harrelson, but I really like how charming the character was. I was really invested in the character. I didn't want the character to die. I knew eventually at some point the character had to die, but I didn't want him to die. I actually cared about that character. The one thing I hated was that they did the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade thing of don't trust anybody, and then, oh, I told you not to trust anybody, I was including myself in that. That felt a bit awkward, and the way that line was delivered, it was a bit jokey, like, we gotcha, and I didn't like that at all. I didn't mind that he turned on them, I just didn't like the way it was executed.
Alright, here's probably my biggest pet peeve, and I have this pet peeve for Rogue One as well. Just because it's an anthology story, or just because it's a spin-off story, doesn't mean that you don't need the opening crawl. And I'll say that, especially, I know that you think Rogue One needed a crawl more than this one did, but this one had the words. Like, it set up the scene with words, and it wasn't just like 1980 Queens, you know, it wasn't just like things. It was like paragraphs of I hit my own microphone. It was like paragraphs of words. And I was like, why didn't you just do the opening crawl? Ugh. Like, it just, they needed to set it up anyway. Why didn't you just set it up the classic Star Wars way? Why do you have to try to make the anthology films feel a little bit different?
Look, in Rogue One, I felt like they needed an opening crawl. Like, needed it. Without a doubt, needed it. Not just because it's Star Wars. Just because if you didn't read Catalyst, you know, there were people going in Rogue One, a lot of people thought it was a sequel to The Force Awakens. A lot of people, if you didn't read Catalyst and you weren't caught up on your Star Wars lore, you had no idea what was going on for the first 5 minutes of that movie. You had no idea. And it felt awkward not having the crawl there, and the crawl would have been there just to explain what was going on. I didn't feel like Solo needed the crawl. I think all Star Wars movies should have the opening crawl because it's Star Wars, but I didn't feel like Solo needed it like Rogue One needed it. But Solo did have text come up, you know, it's the lawless time and it's this and that and this is going on. But like Cam said, they put full paragraphs up. Why not just do the crawl? If you're going to do that, why not just do the crawl? So I agree with Cam in that sense, but I do feel like Rogue One needed it more than Solo needed it. I didn't expect Solo to have one. I actually expected Rogue One to have one, and they didn't, and it felt really awkward it not being there. So I don't know what their plan is now, crawls, no crawls for these Star Wars stories. If they want to just put blue text up, that's fine, but I don't understand why they don't just do crawls. So guys, thank you for watching our video. That was our review of Solo, a Star Wars story. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I have more reviews coming very, very soon. Remember to subscribe to Cameron's channel if you haven't already.
Yeah, Tom, thanks so much for having me. You guys can find me on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Cameron Peterson, or I'm sure Tom will have it linked in the description. Please go and subscribe to me. I'd love to have you as a part of the movie community. Also, you guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CamPeterson41. All right. Thanks so much for having me, Tom.
It was a pleasure. I hope to collaborate with you in the future, and I will see you guys next time.